You make sure that you use your body to block us from anybody who would be coming in that theater to do us harm.
This is a sickness!
Oh boy, I'm gonna catch some flack for this one. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a mess of a film that tries to do too many things at once and can only muster doing one of them well, which is honoring Chadwick Boseman. The film shines in a few moments, particularly the scenes bookending the film, and hinges on the hope that those scenes can manipulate you into thinking the other parts of the movie are good, or at least hoping you'll forgive them. But what's left is an unfortunately clumsy and shallow film that was clearly made with the best intentions, but can't get out from under the large shadow cast by our fallen hero, and can't escape the horrible writing that continues to plague the MCU's Phase 4. Is this Eternals level bad? No, not really. But it's Black Panther and it shouldn't be like this. I'd be interested to know what the original script was like before Boseman passed, because what we're stuck with now is a film that tries to A. Honor T'Challa, B. Build up a new lead character, C. Introduce and establish a new antagonist, D. Introduce another new hero, E. Try and nudge the MCU as a whole forward at least a little bit. Each of these things could take an entire movie, but we shove all of these requirements into this, and what do we get? A disjointed mess, trying to do so many things in one film that you end up with a bloated runtime that, despite trying to accomplish so much, becomes a snooze fest at its best. This is from a person who enjoyed the original film in spite of its flaws. This doesn't hold a candle to that movie. It's clear that Black Panther isn't just a mantle to pass down for us as an audience. T'Challa is our hero. You can't just put anyone in there. Did it happen in the comics? Yeah, sure. But Ironheart was in the comics too. Character replacement didn't go over well, it doesn't work well on film, and it doesn't just create a void, it creates a host of new problems. I'll break this down bit by bit, but to give you an overview, the plot is full of idiotic choices and conveniences that break the film under even the slightest scrutiny. The people of Wakanda should probably be the bad guys of the movie when you take their choices into consideration, which in reality is the typical MCU Phase 4 trope. Again, we'll get to that. I mean, seriously, the Wakandans won't even help out their neighboring countrymen, but they are the most righteous people in the entire world. And our replacement main character simply isn't built or fit to lead a movie of this size in either performance or physical frame. And the antagonist of the film is... God, what a joke. And I still can't pronounce his name right because it's spoken 8 different ways in the movie.
Well, Pan.
No, my name is Pam.
Are you saying Pan or Pam?
Pam.
Pam, oh no.
Pam.
Panned.
With an
There's
M.
a D on the end.
Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, is at least not as insufferable as her comic book counterpart, but that's not saying much. She ends up being yet another character no one really asked for that's a B-list version of an A-list hero. And the CGI, it's an improvement over the originals, but that's not saying much. It still looks laughable at times and downright goofy at its worst. You can feel the strain and weight of expectations in this movie, and with Boseman gone, a studio frantic trying to cobble together a film. You can almost sense Kevin Feige going,
What can I do? What can I do?
well, first of all,
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
from the audience score to critic reviews, I get that you're supposed to like this film. It definitely feels like you're not allowed to criticize it. But I'm not going to just let things slide that I see with my own 2 eyes. Much like my Rings of Power video getting demonetized, my mouth sure gets me in trouble.
Millions of people, in person and in virtual form, have told me, you're the worst, shut the fuck up. Who cares what you believe? Quit speaking, you. But I'm going to do it anyway.
Speaking of which, the situation with the Rings of Power video is why this one has a sponsor. Even if you disagree with me on this movie, I'll try and break this down the best I can so you can at least see where I'm coming from, and you can go from there. The movie starts off with Shuri trying to save her brother who is dying from an unspecified illness off-screen. She's unsuccessful, and the next several minutes of the film are spent honoring our beloved and fallen hero. It's well done. It hit me in the feels, man. The meta-ness is a little too much, though, and I wonder if they could have done this differently, because he's essentially suffering in silence and doesn't ask for help with his unspecified illness. Kind of like Boseman apparently did in real life, not telling anyone about his cancer. It felt a little too much like the real world seeping into the movie when the characters discuss it. Whether it was right or wrong, the respect they have for him comes out on the screen. Next, the Queen of Wakanda meets some folks at the UN to explain to them that they won't be letting anyone get their hands on vibranium because only Wakandans know best. This sounds an awful lot like the weird moral ineptitude that Marvel has been pushing with its characters since Phase 4 started, like trying to make Wanda sympathetic despite her enslaving an entire town and killing dozens of people across the multiverse. If my suspension of disbelief was a bridge, it would have snapped by now. We then hilariously jump right to a US ship plundering the depths of the ocean where they've discovered more vibranium, and they're using a vibranium detector to find it. What an incredible MacGuffin. What an incredibly creative name. What a coincidence they found vibranium right after Wakanda said they wouldn't be giving any up. Then Namor, whatever, and the not Atlanteans attack the ship and provide an untimely end to everyone aboard. Turns out the not Atlanteans have access to vibranium just like the Wakandans, and they don't want their underwater world to be discovered, so they want to off the inventor of the MacGuffin. Of the vibranium detector. And so the plot is off and running. Unfortunately, it's built on an incredibly shaky foundation. Did I say shaky? I meant it's a 9 on the Richter scale, and it's fallen into the ocean. See, if the US had a ship out there, and they discovered vibranium, then it's too late. Who cares if they have another detector? They already know where the vibranium is based on where the ship is. But no, we have to, 1, introduce multiple new characters, and 2, have a reason to make a movie. Namor, blah, 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 sneaks up on Shuri and her mother, and he tells them,
"Hey, you have to help me find the scientist who made the vibranium machine."
and they're like,
Get fucked!
and he's like,
Nah, I won't actually, because I'll wage some kind of war on you if you don't get her. I don't want the above world to know about my below world, so my people can't go get her.
so Shuri and the woman from The Walking Dead decide they're gonna go to America and find the scientist. Turns out it's Riri Williams, who has no explanation about why she's a hyper-intelligent 19-year-old who seems to be smarter than any person on Earth, but here she is all the same. The only piece of credit I'll give here is that this movie at least doesn't shit on the memory of Iron Man, like the other movies and shows have done to our legacy heroes. No one up to this point has escaped it. Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, all have been crapped on in order to make their unlikable replacements look cool for the awakened society at large.
Did not go to law school and rack up 6 figures in student loans to become a vigilante that is for billionaires and narcissists and adult orphans for some reason.
If a billionaire narcissist saved the entire universe, what does that make a drunkard like you? We escaped that kind of BS here without nary a mention of Stark. Thankfully. But Riri is, by and large, a Mary Sue, no doubt about it. She's incredible at everything, smarter than everyone, seems like even smarter than Shuri, because of course she is. They work around her supervillain origin story from the comics, where she begs her teacher to victimize her and tell her she can't do something so that she can prove her teacher wrong. Oh wait.
I ain't built no detective for no CIA. I made that for my metallurgy class. The professor said I'd never be able to do it.
Never mind. During their escape, Walking Dead girl kills a bunch of innocent policemen who are just trying to do their jobs. Yeah, again, remember when I said it's hard to take Wakandans seriously as the good guys?
You're such a bad person.
This is how Marvel works now. These are our main characters, so they are good guys. Anyone who is chasing them are bad guys. It's that simple. Just don't think about it, okay?
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Walking Dead girl fights not Atlanteans who show up even though Namor, doesn't want his people to be discovered or seen by the surface world. So, of course, they get seen by humans. So wait, they're here now, so I guess they don't care about being seen by humans? So they could have just gotten Riri by themselves. So why send the Wakandans? Wait.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
And then Shuri demands to meet Namor and goes off with them along with Riri. And yeah, I kind of laugh in my head every time I say her name. Shuri meets Namor and asks him his origin story for the audience's benefit. He's a mutant, you see, and calls himself the boy without love, even though he had a mother who loved him for decades before she died of old age. Shuri asks him the tough questions, like do not Atlanteans use a toilet or does pee and poop just float around everywhere? And he waxes philosophical.
One question that I get asked a lot, and I think it's an important question, is it okay to shit your pants? And I think we have to ask ourselves, firstly, is it okay to shit? And the answer to that is yes, of course it is okay to shit.
Then he starts talking about the plight of his people.
I get young men coming up to me all the time, and their pants are covered in poo-poo, and most of it has usually come from their own butt, and it's a travesty. It's very upsetting. Sometimes they've come hundreds of miles just to see me, and they're covered in shit.
Then he brings her further down the depths and she sees a really lame underwater city. Honestly, you don't see much. It comes off kind of silly. Aquaman did this far, far better. And even the Gungan city from Phantom Menace 23 years ago looked better than this. Because it looks so lame and forgettable, it doesn't give off the sense of power the film tries to make you believe it has either. Next, T'Challa's girlfriend finally shows up to remind you to be sad about Chadwick Boseman, and she goes undercover to get Shuri and Riri back. She kills a not Atlantean in the process, and Shuri is like, wait, this will be an act of war. Let me save her. And T'Challa's girlfriend is like, no, don't do that. We need the plot to move. So Namor finds the dead not Atlantean, is like,
the fuck you did,
and attacks Wakanda in some goofy-ass, trite way, and kills the queen, then flies off because it's always a brilliant idea to piss someone off, then let them regroup. So then Shuri's like, the fuck you did, and uses her own MacGuffin to recreate another MacGuffin. I mean, her magic machine that creates the magic herb, so she can become Black Panther and duke it out with Namor. The script tries to make us question whether Shuri will seek ultimate revenge or not, but come on, seriously. They come up with what sounds like a cool way to trap Namor, but then it turns out to be just a room on a ship with heaters. For real. When I saw this in the theater, I chuckled a little. That's the best they came up with. It's so anticlimactic. The camera zooms up in awe to fucking space heaters. Wakandans and not Atlanteans duke it out. Riri is flying around in a suit straight out of the Nintendo 64 era of graphics, and Shuri beats Namor and makes him yield. I mean, after he full-on impales her with his spear, then she's just totally fine. This was a few eye-roll inducing moments back-to-back in the theater. They call a truce by basically retreading T'Challa's moment of clarity with Zemo from Captain America Civil War, and we move on. The movie's bookended by a nice montage of T'Challa as Shuri sits alone, mourning her brother, and honestly, it's emotionally impactful and manipulative. I'm not going to forget that the rest of the movie I just saw was ridiculous just because it ends on an emotionally impactful moment that had nothing to do with what I just saw. But that does lead us into discussing what the film does well, and very well actually, which is honoring T'Challa and, in the meta, Chadwick Boseman. Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, is the focus of these scenes and brings a level of maturity we did not see from her both as a character and as an actress in her other MCU appearances. In fact, I think I was one of the few people who thought she was an incredibly annoying and unlikable character in the other films. But here she brings some real chops that I can appreciate. In the wake of Boseman's passing, the way they handled T'Challa's death is understandable and honorable, and I'm not sure if anyone else has this in their theaters, but the projectors in mine covered every wall during these scenes. It's hard to describe, but basically you were surrounded 360 degrees by the film. Is this some new format? I didn't buy a special ticket. Either way, it was effective and utilized perfectly to get grief out of you. I mean, I miss Chadwick Boseman. The original Black Panther film was a cultural moment that I can appreciate. I understood it. It meant a lot to a lot of people, despite the movie's shortcomings in story writing. We often talk about how we don't need to see our own skin tones on screen to connect or relate to someone, and that's true, and I stand by that, but sometimes it can really matter. I feel like Black Panther was one of those times. I live in an incredibly diverse city now and lived in a different but equally diverse city when Black Panther came out in 2018. During the summer of that year, I was at a park and a class of young kids were all gathered around a slide. Almost all of the African American kids in the group were wearing Black Panther shirts and were laughing and having a blast, crossing their arms and yelling Wakanda Forever as they went down the slide. And I realized these kids had their hero. We can talk about Blade, Falcon, War Machine all we want, that there's always been representation present, but let's not kid ourselves. These characters are not in the upper stratosphere of superheroes. These characters are cool, but they're no Spider-Man, they are not Batman, they are not Iron Man, but Black Panther is. He's an A-list superhero. King T'Challa is everything you could ask for in a superhero, and he's in that upper stratosphere. A rich history, an awesome and tragic background, great villains, and a seriously kick-ass costume. Boseman did an incredible job bringing the character to life. He was a literal icon after the first movie came out, and his passing is tragic for so many reasons. And yeah, I think he was robbed of a Best Actor Oscar.
And I want to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who's taken from us far too early. And again, thank you all very much. I really did not expect this.
I love Anthony Hopkins, and his performance in The Father was apparently amazing, but come on, he already had one. As far as Letitia Wright, she is a lot better as Shuri as she ever has been, but she's simply not made to lead a franchise like this. Not necessarily because of her acting, which has improved, but because the character is who she is. Shoehorned into the starring role because of a tragic loss, and you just feel it throughout the entire film. And she, quite frankly, looks ridiculous in the Black Panther suit. Angela Bassett really nails it as Queen Ramonda. She puts on a tour de force, and goddamn, she is legit in this. Winston Duke as M'Baku is a huge highlight, and I sighed relief every time he came on screen because he's one of the few highlights. He's used in good effect as a strong character and as some comic relief. Lupita Nyong'o is underutilized for such a brilliant actress. She was my vote to take over the Black Panther role. Her character's a spy after all, and she easily could have slipped into it. It doesn't hurt that she's seriously wasted in this film, and it's a damn shame. Dana Guerrera, who plays Okoye, is fine as she usually is, but her character just sucks. They can't help but point out the character's flaws in the script either, which is humorous because if you need to address how shitty she is but ignore all the other flaws in your narrative, why even bother? And Okoye sure turned Freeman's character into a beta. He saved a Wakandan and took a bullet to the spine. Then they turn him into a lapdog and have him turn against his own government because they saved him with zero effort because they have the ultimate MacGuffin. Vibranium. Then when Okoye rescues him from a prisoner transport, she says, "A colonizer in chains. Now I've seen everything." And my theater erupted in cheers and yells of "yeah" by people who were sitting there holding iPhones eating popcorn in an air-conditioned theater. The social engineering is strong with this one. And finally, Tenoch Huerta as Namor. I'm sorry, this dude was awful. Maybe it was the writing, you can't really tell sometimes, but he was horrible in this role. Okay, clearly the writing had something to do with it, but it was a seriously rough performance and the character came off as stupid. His lines were delivered in cringe fashion. There were constantly moments where you didn't know what kind of emotion he was trying to portray, and it absolutely was not meant to be a deceptive character trait either. It was just silly acting. There have been comments about his physicality and appearance, but I didn't really care about that. I read somewhere that it was a specific look they were going for, and he looks like a bodybuilder who's in bulking mode. I'm not here yelling, "Put that cookie down!" I think he would have looked better as a cut Namor, but it is what it is. Do you, boo-boo. But Namor himself is poorly translated from comic to film here. I don't know how someone at some point didn't go, "Hey, I know he has wings on his feet, but like, it looks stupid as shit. Can we just not?" You know how they didn't have wings on Captain America's helmet and they just painted them on? Figure something else out to make him fly. Because it really does look stupid, and they proudly display it during his introduction too. It just looks embarrassingly bad. Inept writing that carried over from the original Black Panther harms this film more than anything else. Like a great script can transcend bad acting, a great performance and great characters can sometimes transcend a bad script. My colleagues might not agree, but I think the original Black Panther was one of those times. T'Challa, as played by Boseman, was fantastic, iconic, and I have an appreciation for the cultural impact it had. But this? What do we do with this? We're left with no one to carry this film. No one here is anywhere close to Boseman. The film was destined for failure because of it. In my opinion, you can't ignore it, and you can't lean into it too much, because then it's just about the ghost of a fallen hero. The film is stuck, and it stays where it is, trapped in the MCU narrative, while spinning its wheels, unable to move forward in any meaningful way. It's a poor way to cap off Phase 4 that's already dishearteningly horrible. Messy storytelling, seriously goofy CGI, and a plot sitting in a foundation of pudding makes for another MCU shit show. But unlike Doctor Strange or Thor: Love and Thunder, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Till next time, GG's, gents.